Hi, this is Dr. Michelle Robin with Small Changes, Big Shifts. And I believe if you'll change one thing a month, the next 12 months, you'll change your life forever. Thanks for joining me on the journey. Well, welcome to Small Changes, Big Shifts today. And I'm excited to be sharing with Nicole Wickenhauser about water.org, and not just water.org, but the telling your story. We've been kind of fiddling with some new technology here, and you may be getting this audio or video. I'm not sure which way you're getting it, but we found out that we have a really common connection, and I'm going to start with that and give a shout out. Whoops, you can't see the lights there. Give a shout out to my friend John O'Leary, and on his book On Fire, which will radically change your life without a doubt. And so, Nicole, you're from St. Louis.
That's right, I am. And I knew John in grade school. We went to the same parish, St. Clement's.
So did you know John when he got burnt?
Not well. He was a little bit older than me, so I was pretty young, but I do remember it, of course.
Wow, that's so fascinating. Well, it's interesting. We're thinking about fire, and you're with water.org. So tell our followers a little bit about water.org.
Sure, of course. So water.org is an organization that's dedicated to ending the global water and sanitation crisis. We're headquartered here in Kansas City, and we work in developing countries around the world. So it may surprise you that today about 1 in 9 people around the world don't have ready access to safe water to drink at their homes. And more than twice as many people don't have even a basic toilet. In fact, more people actually have a cell phone than a toilet. So it's a very big crisis, but it's one we know how to address. So it's been really great. I've been part of the organization about 11 years, and to really see the changes that are being made.
Let me just recap what you said. So 1 out of 9 people don't have access to clean water to drink.
Correct.
And then 2 out of 9 people don't have access to a toilet.
So the current number is about 884 million people don't have ready access to an improved water source.
Wow.
And more than twice as many, over 2 billion, don't have ready access to a sanitary toilet.
Well, on this podcast, Small Changes, Big Shifts, we really try to focus on looking at the whole person and being well. And we've been talking about the quadrants of well-being this year: mechanical health, chemical, energetical, psycho-spiritual. And for me, I think one of the foundations of being well is drinking water.
Yes.
And so to not even have access to it, 884 million people don't have access to drinking water.
Well, of course, everyone somehow today is securing enough water to survive, but there's a huge continuum around that water. So, for example, it's often the women and the girls who are spending hours standing in line at a public stand post in India, for example, waiting for the water to turn on, hoping there will be enough water there when they finally get to the front of the queue and can collect it. Or you take a situation in a remote village in Ethiopia where a young girl might have to wake before the dawn, walk miles to the nearest river, carry that water miles back before going to school, if she's able to go to school. And sometimes there's multiple trips that have to occur during the day to meet the family's water needs. So again, everybody to survive, of course, is securing water somewhere, but we call this water insecurity. When you wake up, you don't know where you're going to find your water, how much you're going to have, and you don't know if that water you drink might make you sick.
You know, I think we take the access to water for sure in Kansas City for granted. I know I do. It's interesting as I was thinking about our conversation and just through the years knowing Rosemary and just thinking about what you guys are doing at water.org, I think about when I'm using water, am I wasting water? And I'm thinking, does the water I use here matter? Talk to me, how do we get our mind around that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think, water, it plays such a pivotal role in our lives. It's basic to survival. It's basic to making our coffee in the morning. We live in the city of fountains here in Kansas City. Water interacts with our life in so many ways. And we're really fortunate, generally we can go find water to drink when we need it. I think if we're talking about the global water crisis in terms of what you can do, I would say is just being conscious of the role of water in your life and then learning more about this issue. So visiting our website is a great way to start. But I think even just being aware of the many uses of water.
Well, we think about water.org. It's located in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
And so how is it, in Kansas City, in the middle of the country, in the middle of the United
Right.
States?
So that's because our co-founder, Gary White, is from here. He's
Mm-hmm.
from Kansas City. And so that's how the organization came to be based here. But it's really great for us in a number of ways. We have a lot of partners around the country on both coasts. So we kind of split the difference. It's really affordable here in Kansas City. And so much of our work, our staff is really around the world. So Kansas City is our global headquarters. We have a satellite office in San Francisco, but it really goes back to Gary.
So now tell me your role and why are you so passionate about it?
Yes. So my role is I oversee our strategic alliances department, which basically means I wake up each day and I forge partnerships that help provide the funding that we need to execute our programs around the world. So I'm passionate about this cause for so many reasons. So first is the water issue itself. It's kind of the calling of my life. I feel like water is so fundamental to nearly every human development issue. If you look at education, if you look at health, if you look at poverty, if you look at the environment, if you look at women's empowerment, so much of it traces back to water. Water is really a fundamental building block for enabling progress on all of these other issues. And then I feel very, very passionately about water.org and our approach. So the way we work has evolved over the years, but at our core, we've always looked at how can we end this crisis and how can we do that by empowering those we serve. So our approach is really centered around finance and removing financial barriers that stand between people living in poverty and access to safe water and sanitation. So if you look at this crisis and the scale, and you look at the current resources that are going against it, it will cost about $200 billion per year over the next 5 years to ensure everyone has safe water and sanitation and then to maintain that infrastructure. We have about $8 billion across all funding sources going against the crisis, with just a very small part being philanthropy. So clearly, if we are seriously going to end this crisis, there has to be new ways to bring in new sources of financing. So if we go back to that woman who is spending hours each day collecting water, that's time she's not working. That's time her girl is not at school. That's water that may be contaminated that she's then paying high cost to have her children treated. So people are already paying, in many ways, their hard costs, their health, their opportunity for water. If someone could take out a loan to be able to afford that upfront cost of a connection to a pipe or a well at home or a rainwater harvesting tank, what we found is people are eager and willing to do so and can pay that back over time. So there's a very, very large market that among people living in poverty who, if they had access to affordable financing, would take out a loan to get a water and a toilet at home. So of that total need, there's a very significant percent that could be reached in that way. So then you're looking at commercial capital for those loans. So basically a woman in rural India who otherwise would be waiting around many, many years for a charity well has the opportunity now to purchase the water or the toilet solution of her choice. So she's invested in it as an owner. She's going to maintain that over time. She has a credit history, and there's many ripple effects. So basically, it goes back to bringing in new sources of financing, empowering people to meet their needs in the ways that they choose, and really tapping into the local financial markets and building up those systems.
So it's global as well as local economy. Exactly.
Yes.
I was reading a book, or actually got the book. I've not read the book yet, but heard a speaker, and I can't think of his name, Paul. He wrote about 100 ways to help climate change. And one of them was, number 8 was educating women. But these women can't go get educated or get a job because they're too busy trying to get water.
Yes.
Just that very fundamental need.
Exactly.
So as a person in Kansas City who really may hear about the crisis, but I don't have access to people that are actually dealing with a crisis day to day until somebody like you. What can I do?
So I think there's a couple things. One would be to get to know more about it, to read up. There's a great deal of literature on the issue. Learn about the work that different organizations are doing. If, for example, you're in a book club, maybe pick a book that's centered around issues like this. Or I know donating is always something that can make a tremendous difference in someone's life. So our cost per person to reach with safe water is about $13
per person.
Per person.
So if somebody donates, let's say $144, they're going to reach 12 people.
Approximately.
Wow. That's life-changing.
It is life-changing. So that's absolutely something that you can do. And as you know, it's the end of year and holiday season. So there's lots of different ways that you can support causes like water.org and can support water.org. If you go to our website, purchasing different products, there's a percent that goes to us. So fundraising, learning about the issue, sharing what you've learned with others. I think those are powerful ways. If you're a person of faith, pray about it. Just
do something.
Do something.
Well, it could be many things people could do this time of year. I know there's no shortage of people asking for help this time of year. So tell me a personal story. I mean, maybe you've had an experience with somebody that you've watched that has gotten access to water, changed their life. Do you have a story that you can think about?
Sure, absolutely. So there was a woman in India who before was spending hours walking to the public stand post, waiting for it to turn on. Sometimes there would be arguments with neighbors because there's this scarce supply, so that, that's kind of tough. She took out a loan. She got a water tap at her home, so now she has that time back. She channels the wastewater to a garden, so now she's able to grow food, to sell some of that at market, and her life has been transformed in a lot of ways.
Now, what does it cost to put a well in it or a water source at your home?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it really does vary depending on the country, the region, the type of water or toilet solution. On average, it's $311 is the size of a typical loan that people take out. And we call these water credit loans. This is an approach that water.org pioneered. So we call it water credit, and it's for water or toilet at home.
So you know how people sponsor a child? Could you sponsor a well for somebody's home?
So,
or is that considered the loan?
So the short answer is you can contribute towards the work that we're doing, which will then result in...
Okay, no one specifically. You can't adopt a family with...
Exactly. And that's what's a bit different about our approach, right? Is that it's not us going into a particular community and spending donor dollars on this well. Rather, it's really setting up the local systems to endure and to serve the poor. So our focus is really ensuring that the poor have an equal seat at the table, that the local financial markets work for the poor as much as they work for everybody else. So what we do is we work with a wide variety of different financial institutions. To date, it's been largely microfinance institutions, but increasingly commercial banks, women's self-help groups, and other types of organizations to help them add loans for water and toilets to their existing loan portfolio of products, and then helping to ensure that portfolio is successful and it endures over time. So once our direct partnership period with an MFI ends, they have the successful portfolio of water and sanitation products set up, and it continues over time. So when we were talking earlier about our average cost for helping someone get access to safe water and sanitation, that calculates in the people served by our partners, those loans going out only during that direct partnership period.
Okay.
So in addition to helping someone get safe water today, you're helping set up these local systems that are going to endure and serve many, many more people in the future.
So creating sustainability.
Exactly. And importantly, it's, again, going back to, if we're serious about wanting to end the water and sanitation crisis, we have to bring in new sources of capital. So that's the other thing you're doing, is making it possible for commercial capital to work for the poor who need water and sanitation. So if we look at the numbers and some of water.org's greatest impact, through what we call basically a small subsidy to our partners to help offset their costs that are associated with getting these new products to market. So helping them hire the right staff that have expertise in water and sanitation, doing the marketing, etc. So to date, we've invested about $20 million in philanthropic resources in our partners. In turn, they've secured over $500 million in capital for these loans, over $600 million. So this is really exciting because that's a lot of people, a lot of leverage that we would otherwise not have. And again, it's going to endure over time.
Wow. So fascinating. If you had a magic wand with what you've been experiencing with water.org, what would you change?
I would love for everybody to have safe water and the dignity of a toilet at their home.
What's the vision? Do you guys have a 2030 vision, 2040 vision? What's the vision where that happens?
Sure. So, I mean, our end vision, of course, is just that. It's universal access to safe water and sanitation for every person. We just recently completed a 5-year strategic plan this spring. And so over the next 5 years, our goal is to reach 60 million people.
60 million.
60 million. So today we've reached a little over 9 million. Our organization has been around since 1990. However, and most recently, we are now reaching about 1 million people every quarter. So momentum is gaining, and 60 million people is a lot, but we feel it's doable, and we're on the right path. So we've got some work ahead of us.
Well, you got a great team.
Yes.
And a great vision. So how can our followers plug in? I don't know. Can they follow the stories on social media? Obviously go to your website.
Absolutely. That would be great. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, we're at Water.
At Water?
Water. That's a great question. Just Water is our handle.
Okay, Water. Okay.
So if you go to water.org, our website, you'll be able to find all of our social media links there, all of our stories. It's a great resource. And that's the nice thing about having a co-founder that snagged the name way back when is we have a pretty easy URL. So go to water.org, and from there you'll be able to find everything you need.
Do you have any last words of wisdom you'd like to share with our followers?
Yes. I would say believe in your ability to make a difference. Whether that's smiling at someone as you pass through a door, it's believing that $25 donation is truly going to make that change. Whether it's in your confidence in yourself, just believe.
I love that, and kind of let go. We've got a couple props here today, and one is, whoa, there you go, John O'Leary's book On Fire, and I'd encourage you to. It's a great book, great read. And just remind you that you can make a difference. And I think John's really taken his situation, and it's so fun that you personally know him. And then, I, of course, love be good to people, and the lighting's kind of getting it. Be good to people. How can we continue to just remind you of that? So I'm glad you brought that up. So I want to leave you with a small change challenge this week. I want you to really be conscious of how much, I know I take drinking water for granted. I love hot baths. I take that for granted. Being able to take a shower once or twice a day, or maybe once a week, whatever you're doing, I take that for granted. Washing your dishes. So I'm going to challenge you to not only give a smile, but also think about your access to water and how grateful we are. And then check out water.org. And if you feel pulled into the conversation, do what you can. Share, whether it's $1 or $20 or $311, can make a huge difference. All right. I'm sending you really big hugs. We'll chat next week. Bye-bye.
I sure appreciate you listening to Small Changes, Big Shifts. If you go to our website, drmichellerobin.com, we'll have the show notes for you there. If this episode inspired you to make a small change that will lead to a big shift, please share it with a friend. And feel free to leave us a rating or review on iTunes. Be sure to subscribe so you'll catch our episode next week. Blessings to you.